Hey everyone, welcome back. We're going deep today, diving into some pretty out there stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be looking at the whole idea of claiming homes free and clear.
Free and clear.
Which, yeah, I know, sounds a little crazy, right? Our main source for this deep dive is this PDF, How I Lawfully Claimed 3 Houses Free and Clear,
Okay.
written by a guy named George Tran.
Interesting.
Now, Tran claims he found a way to use what he calls paper cuts. Basically really precise, like administrative procedures to kind of like game the system and get his homes free and clear.
It's a bold claim for sure.
Right.
Makes you wonder, does it actually work? Is it even legal?
Right. What are the risks?
Yeah.
All good questions.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to be exploring today.
Absolutely.
So let's start with the basics. What's the foundation of Tran's argument here?
Well, at its core, Tran is saying that banks have already been paid for mortgages
Okay.
multiple times over.
Multiple times.
He points to things like mortgage-backed securities and those government bailouts as evidence.
Okay. So I got to admit, I'm a little fuzzy on how mortgage-backed securities fit into all this.
Sure.
Can you break that down for me and for our listeners who might be wondering the same thing?
Of course. So a mortgage-backed security is basically like a bundle of mortgages
Okay.
that banks package up and sell off to investors.
Mm-hmm.
These investors then get a portion of all those mortgage payments.
I see.
It's a way for banks to free up capital and then, keep lending more money.
Right.
But Tran points out this whole process can lead to situations where the original mortgage note,
The actual proof.
the actual proof of the debt, gets lost.
Lost.
Or it becomes like incredibly difficult to track.
So you're saying because these notes are being like tossed around between investors,
Right.
it's not always clear who can actually foreclose on a property.
Exactly. And then on top of that, you have to add in all those government bailouts that happened back in 2008.
Oh, yeah.
Tran's argument is that through these bailouts, banks basically got compensated again for mortgages that they might not even have the right to collect on anymore.
So he's saying homeowners are making payments on debts that have already been paid off.
Essentially, yes. He even cites a Federal Reserve publication
Really?
called Modern Money Mechanics
Okay.
as evidence for this theory.
Interesting. Modern money mechanics, huh?
Yeah.
Got to look into that one.
It's an interesting read for sure. According to Tran, this publication sheds light on the whole money creation process
Okay.
and how it relates to lending practices.
I'm definitely going to have to check that out. But let's get back to Tran's strategy here.
Sure.
How does he actually propose using this information to claim a home free and clear? I mean, it can't be as simple as just saying, hey, you've already been paid, I'm not paying anymore.
Oh, it's definitely not that simple.
Yeah.
Tran leans heavily on a federal law called the Administrative Procedures Act of 1946,
Okay.
or APA for short.
APA.
He calls it his secret weapon.
Okay, I like where this is going. What is the APA,
Right.
and how does it apply to all this mortgage and foreclosure stuff?
So the APA basically dictates how government agencies, including banks in this context, interact with the public. The key concept that Tran uses is this idea of silence means acquiescence.
Silence means acquiescence.
You got it.
What does that even mean?
Well, it means if you send a very specific notice or demand to a bank,
Okay.
like let's say a request for proof that they actually own the mortgage note, and they don't respond within a certain time frame legally, that's considered an acceptance of your terms.
So they've basically agreed to your claim by not contesting it.
Exactly.
So like if you ignore a parking ticket and you don't contest it within the time limit,
Right?
you've automatically agreed to pay it.
Perfect analogy.
Okay. I'm starting to see how this works.
Of course, as Tran emphasizes, meticulous record keeping is absolutely crucial here. He talks about sending all correspondence certified mail
Oh, yeah, it makes sense.
to have proof of delivery and following all the procedures outlined in the APA exactly to the letter.
So it's not just about sending a random letter and hoping for the best. You really got to understand this APA thing
You got it.
and use it strategically.
That's the key.
This is getting complicated.
It can be. Yeah. The APA is a complex piece of legislation.
Right.
And interpreting it correctly is really essential.
I see what you mean. Okay, so how does Tran connect this APA strategy to actually challenging a bank's right to foreclose?
All right, so remember, if a bank can't produce that original mortgage note because it's been sold, lost, or just tangled up in the whole mortgage-backed securities mess,
Right.
they arguably don't have the standing to foreclose. They have to prove they're the rightful owner of that debt.
It's like trying to repossess a car you've already sold, right?
Exactly.
You wouldn't have the legal right to do that.
Nope.
But wait, how often do banks actually lose track of these mortgage notes?
More often than you'd think.
Really?
Tran claims that most banks don't actually have those original notes readily available.
Wow.
Because they've been bundled and traded so many times.
So he sees this as like a weakness, a vulnerability.
A major one in the system, yeah.
Okay, so we've got the they've already been paid argument and this whole silence means acquiescence strategy.
Right.
Using the APA. But I have a feeling there's more to Tran's approach.
Oh, there's definitely more.
He mentioned something about the deed of trust and something called trustee power.
Yeah, that's a big one.
What's that all about?
This is where it gets a little more complex.
All right, I'm ready.
But it's key to understanding Tran's whole strategy. He points out most homeowners don't really grasp what they're signing.
Yeah.
When they sign that deed of trust to get a mortgage,
Uh-huh.
what they're actually doing is creating a trust.
Okay.
Where they are the grantor, they appoint a trustee.
Mm.
And here's the kicker. They actually have the power to replace that trustee under certain conditions.
Wait, what? We have the power to replace the trustee.
You heard that right.
I never knew that.
It's in the fine print.
So how does that play into Tran's strategy?
This is where it gets really interesting. Tran suggests that if a bank can't prove their claim...
Like if they can't find the note?
Exactly. Perhaps because they can't locate that note, the homeowner could potentially appoint a new trustee and direct them to issue what's called a full reconveyance of the property.
A full reconveyance. That sounds pretty serious. What does that actually mean?
Basically, it's a legal document that transfers full ownership of the home back to the homeowner.
Wow.
Free and clear of any liens or mortgages.
Okay, so this is starting to feel like high-stakes chess.
A little bit, yeah.
But the big question is, does this actually work in the real world?
That's the million-dollar question.
Did Tran actually pull this off himself?
Well, according to the PDF, he claims to have successfully applied this strategy to not one, not two, but 4 properties.
4 houses.
He even provides detailed accounts of all his letters back and forth with the banks, his interactions with the county recorder's office, all that.
All right. I got to admit, my skepticism is starting to waver a little. This is a fascinating deep dive.
It is.
And I'm really curious to hear more about Tran's personal experiences and whether this whole 1,000 paper cuts approach actually worked out for him. We'll be right back to explore the rest of this incredible story. So Tran claims he actually did this not just once, but on 4 separate properties.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
That's a bold claim.
Yeah.
Tell me more about his, personal journey.
Sure.
How did he navigate this whole thing?
Well, he starts out, like most of us would, skeptical. But as he dug deeper into this whole financial system, he started to get more and more convinced that something was off. He talks about this feeling like the system was rigged against homeowners.
Right.
And that really fueled his determination to find a way out.
It sounds like he was really driven by a sense of injustice.
Totally.
Like it wasn't just about the money.
It wasn't, no. It was about taking a stand against a system he saw as unfair.
I can relate to that. But even if you believe in something like wholeheartedly stopping your mortgage payments.
Right.
It seems incredibly risky.
For sure.
What if it doesn't work out?
It's a big gamble.
What are the consequences?
Well, Tran acknowledges those risks,
Okay.
but he seems pretty confident in his approach. And according to his account, it worked. He claims he cleared the liens on all 4 properties.
4 houses. That's impressive. But let's say you managed to get your home free and clear. What about the practical stuff afterwards, like your credit score? Your ability to get loans in the future?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Seems like this could have some serious long-term consequences.
That's a really important point, and it's something a lot of people worry about.
For sure.
Tran actually addresses this in the PDF.
Does he?
He does.
Yeah.
He offers a strategy for dealing with credit bureaus.
Okay, I'm all ears. How does he propose fixing your credit?
Well, he turns to the Administrative Procedures Act again.
That APA.
The APA. He argues you can use the APA to send a notice to the credit bureaus, disputing any negative marks related to the property.
So you're basically saying, hey, this debt was legally nullified.
Right.
You need to update my report.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if they don't comply within a certain time frame, Tran even suggests threatening legal action.
Really?
Yeah, for damages to your credit score.
Wow.
He seems very confident that with the proper documentation, they'd be forced to correct any inaccuracies.
Okay, so he's thought this through. He's got an answer for everything.
He really has. But let's be real. Even with Tran's guide, this whole process, it's incredibly complex.
It is.
Is this something anyone can just do?
That's a good question.
Even Tran admits this isn't easy.
Okay.
He emphasizes it takes serious time, energy, commitment.
Yeah.
You got to really understand the legal and financial stuff involved.
Right.
He actually says, and I'm quoting here, "Do not do this if you are not willing to do whatever it takes to win."
Wow.
To fight as if your life and your family's life depended on it.
Do whatever it takes to win.
Huh.
He's not messing around.
Not at all. He talks about creating and filing over 24 legal documents.
Oh, my God.
Tracking every communication meticulously.
Yeah.
Being ready to go head-to-head with these institutions.
You need a certain personality type to even attempt this.
Right.
Someone super detail-oriented,
Definitely.
persistent, maybe a little fearless.
I think that's accurate. What's interesting is Tran mentions facing resistance.
Really?
From people he talked to along the way.
Like who?
A title officer. Even his own lawyer?
His own lawyer.
They apparently warned him about going up against banks.
Mm.
Cautioned him against pursuing this.
But he was determined.
He really was. It really
Yeah.
shows you his conviction.
But we got to reiterate, this is just one perspective.
Right.
One person's interpretation of the law.
For sure.
Even if Tran was successful, there's no guarantee that everyone else will be.
Absolutely. Anyone considering this needs to do their own research.
Yeah.
Talk to legal professionals, weigh
Right.
the risks and benefits carefully.
This is not something to jump into lightly.
Definitely not. Okay, so even if someone isn't willing to go all in on Tran's full strategy, are there takeaways here that the average person
Yeah.
can use in their own financial lives?
That's a good question. Is there anything we can learn from his experience?
I think one of the most valuable takeaways is the importance of financial literacy.
Okay.
Tran's story, whether you agree with him or not, shows you need to understand this stuff, the financial system, and to be aware of your rights as a consumer.
It's about taking control
Exactly.
of your financial well-being.
Not just blindly trusting institutions or signing documents you don't understand.
Right.
Right.
And that knowledge can be empowering.
It really can.
Even if you never go as far as Tran did.
For sure.
Understanding how mortgages work, what your rights are as a borrower, how to navigate the system can give you a sense of control.
It really can.
And confidence.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power.
Right. And in this case, knowledge of the financial system could save you a lot of money and stress down the road.
That's a great way to put it. Even if you never have to claim your home free and clear, just being more informed can make a huge difference.
So we've got the they've already been paid premise, the APA strategy, the deed of trust power play.
Right.
We've talked about the potential consequences and criticisms, but Tran doesn't stop there, does he? He also talks about getting all the money you've paid on your mortgage back.
He does. He argues if you can prove the bank did something fraudulent.
Like collecting payments they didn't have the right to.
Exactly. You could be entitled to triple damages.
Triple damages.
Which means all the money you paid plus extra penalties.
That could be a lot of money.
It could be.
Right.
But remember, this is a complex legal argument. Whether it hold up in court is another question entirely.
Right. And I imagine it depends on the situation and the laws in your state.
Absolutely.
But it's a bold claim for sure. And it speaks to Tran's whole message.
Yeah.
Fighting for what you believe in, even against powerful institutions.
He wants homeowners to know they have options.
Right.
Even in situations that seem hopeless.
That's good.
He gives examples of cases where individuals challenged banks and won settlements.
That's encouraging. I got to admit, though, my head is spinning.
Yeah, this is a lot.
This has been an incredibly information-packed deep dive.
It has.
We've covered some really complex concepts and legal strategies.
Definitely. I think everyone should take some time to process this.
Yeah.
Do their own research before making any decisions.
This is not financial advice.
No.
We're just exploring ideas.
Right. This is just one perspective.
Very
unconventional one.
Very unconventional.
We're not saying do what Tran did.
Yeah.
We're just presenting the information.
Anyone thinking about taking action based on what they heard needs to do their own research.
Yeah.
Talk to legal professionals.
Absolutely.
It's a big decision.
It is.
Okay, we're back for the final part of our deep dive into George Tran's free and clear homeownership strategy. We've covered a lot: mortgage-backed securities, the APA. It's been a wild ride.
Yeah.
I got to say, it's really made me think differently about this whole homeownership thing.
Yeah. I think that's one of the most interesting things about Tran's approach. Whether or not you agree with his methods. He makes you question things.
Yeah.
Look at the system from a new angle.
It's so easy to just go through the motions with mortgages.
Yeah.
We sign the papers, make your payments, and assume everything's fine. But Tran's story really highlights how important it is to understand the system, to know your rights.
Absolutely.
And to advocate for yourself.
It's about being empowered.
Yeah.
Not just being passive.
I think that message resonates with a lot of people, especially those who feel like they've been taken advantage of by banks.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Or the financial system in general.
It's like he's tapping into this collective frustration that a lot of homeowners feel.
We're told getting a mortgage is the only way to own a home.
Right.
But then we're stuck with these huge debts. That can feel really overwhelming.
And Tran is basically saying, wait a minute, maybe there's another way.
Yeah.
Maybe we have more power than we think.
But even if there are these vulnerabilities in the system, is it really possible to just claim your home free and clear?
It's a big question.
Using paperwork and legal stuff.
It is. And there are definitely valid criticisms to consider.
Like what? What are the arguments against his methods?
Well, as we talked about before, a lot of legal and financial experts would say Tran's misinterpreting things, oversimplifying complex legal concepts. They'd say the APA and the deed of trust don't work the way he suggests.
So they're saying he's giving people false hope.
That's one way to put it. They'd also emphasize the potential consequences of not paying your mortgage.
Even if you think you have a legal reason.
Exactly.
Like foreclosure damage to your credit legal action from the bank.
Right. Yeah. It's risky.
It sounds like the risks are pretty high.
They are. And even if you win in court, the legal fees, the stress, it all adds up.
It's not a decision to make lightly.
Not at all. We should make it very clear to our listeners that this is just one perspective, and a very unconventional one.
Very unconventional.
We're not endorsing Tran's methods. We're not giving legal advice.
Absolutely not. Anyone thinking about doing anything based on what they heard here needs to do their own research.
For sure.
Talk to lawyers.
Absolutely. This deep dive was about exploring an interesting idea.
Right.
But it's not a how-to guide.
Not at all. So as we wrap up, what are some key takeaways for our listeners? What can they learn from Tran's story, even if they don't agree with everything he says?
I think one of the biggest takeaways is to be an informed consumer. Don't just blindly trust institutions or sign things you don't understand.
Yeah.
Take the time to learn about your rights. Educate yourself about the financial system. Be an active participant in your financial well-being.
It's about taking control. It's like not being afraid to ask questions or to challenge the way things are.
Even if you never try anything as radical as what Tran did.
Right.
That knowledge, that mindset is so valuable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think another takeaway is to remember that there are always multiple perspectives on everything.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
Don't just take things at face value. Dig deeper. Explore different viewpoints.
Right.
Form your own conclusions.
Great advice. Well, this has been fascinating.
It has.
A little mind-boggling at times.
Yeah, but I've learned a lot.
Me too.
And I hope our listeners have too.
I hope so.
We've got links to more resources on our website, including that Modern Money Mechanics publication Tran talked about.
Definitely check that out.
And as always, we encourage you to share your thoughts.
Yes.
Continue the conversation in our online community.
I'd love to hear what you think.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.